2025 began with red skies. No, this is not a metaphor. On January 1st through the 2nd, so-called red auroras covered Europe, Russia, America, and Asia, with some people witnessing the phenomenon on New Year's Eve. Then on January 7th, a 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck Tibet, with 126 dead, 646 aftershocks, and a fault line on the border between southern China and Nepal, now visible in satellite images. At the same time, Mecca and Saudi Arabia faced catastrophic flooding, while California endured massive wildfires that have already consumed about 40,644 acres in Los Angeles County, with damages reaching over $250 billion. These disasters are just a fraction of the global climate catastrophes during the first week of 2025. In my previous video, I shared a detailed summary of the climate anomalies and records set in 2024. To recap, the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, officially confirmed that 2024 was the warmest year on record, surpassing 2023. The global ocean also reached record-breaking temperatures in 2024, becoming the hottest in record history not only on the surface, but also at depths of up to 2,000 meters. That's 1.24 miles. Overall economic losses from natural disasters worldwide reached $320 billion in 2024, about a third higher than the previous year. The pressing question for both the public and scientists is, what is happening to the climate, and what can be done about it? Excuse me for asking this, but haven't we talked about this before? Haven't we, as Alatra participants, tried to reach out to you and convey what's happening with the climate and the consequences these processes will have in the coming years? Did you never come across the videos of Alatra volunteers desperately trying to explain in simple, human terms the causes of climate change, supported by facts, data, and projections from the climate model by Alatra scientists? While Alatra has already presented its climate report containing forecasts and a comprehensive analysis of current and future climate changes on Earth, at two major international climate conferences, COP29 and COP16, and even during an audience with the Pope, global media ignored these facts. Instead, a prominent American publication ran an article discussing climate models and the work of independent researchers. But for some reason, they completely forgot to mention the Alatra report. Allow me to quote a statement from the article that particularly caught our attention. 50 years into the project of modeling Earth's future climate, we still don't really know what's coming. Some places are warming with more ferocity than expected. Extreme events are taking scientists by surprise. Right now, as the bald reality of climate change bears down on human life, scientists are seeing more clearly the limits of our ability to predict the exact future we face. The coming decades may be far worse and far weirder than the best models anticipated. This raises the question, what do they mean by the best climate models? If these best models claimed that climate change would stabilize on its own or that any critical changes wouldn't occur for another 100 years, giving you plenty of time to live your life while leaving the burden of solving the climate problems to your great-grandchildren, then it's no wonder they ignored the Alatra model. From their perspective, our model is the worst. So their models are the best because they have misled you for 50 years, while our model is the worst because it's real and has proven accurate. Unfortunately, all the forecasts about climate changes made in our model a decade ago are now coming true. While articles like these claim that climate modeling requires 100,000 times more computing power than we currently have, and that they lack the resources to achieve this, we managed to do it. No, we don't have powerful servers like Google, but we have thousands of dedicated individuals worldwide with their computers. Together, we were able to compile data, analyze facts and charts, and confirm that the progression of disasters is indeed accelerating. We also identified safe zones that will remain habitable for some time and shared this information long ago. However, much of our research remains unpublished and undisclosed. Why? We just don't want to mess with people's heads. Because without addressing the core climate threat, what's the point if someone survives an extra year or two? You can't imagine what it's like to anticipate the end. That's why I call our model the worst, because it offers no fantasies or foolish hopes. There's no way to profit from it, no room for embezzling funds and laundering money. We have no external funding. Yet, we have never complained about a lack of resources. Instead, we united through pure enthusiasm and true volunteerism. Acting out of pure altruism, a desire to help, and to do what we can to save people's lives and the future of our children. That's what motivated us. Alatra participants repeatedly warned the public, based on this model built on fact analysis and open source data, that climate disasters around the world would continue to escalate. And they would intensify way faster than the so-called best models suggested all these years. This message was conveyed countless times. And it's just heartbreaking to realize that just because of one genius with a psychiatric diagnosis who took control of the FSB, the international organization Alatra was discredited. Its participants were dehumanized, and it was forced out of Russia's critically important territory for climate observation and research. After all, it was Mr. Dworkin who gave the order through his network to hunt down and persecute ordinary, law-abiding volunteers studying climate issues, treating them like animals. Why? Because certain information from the classified part of our climate report, which we tried to convey to certain individuals, threatened his plans to establish totalitarian control worldwide. 10 years ago, only a handful of people listened to us. Now, the climate speaks for us. Scientists are throwing up their hands, unable to explain what's happening. Natural disasters occur daily, breaking record after record, and climate anomalies are on the rise. Let me remind you again of the damages to the global economy for 2024. According to the Munich Re-Report, losses totaled $320 billion. This year, damages from wildfires in Los Angeles County alone have already reached over $250 billion. And it's only been 2 weeks in 2025. This is the cost of Dworkin's ambitions and human folly. These losses and damages could have been prevented. But there's one point to note. While the scale of these disasters is enormous and the financial losses are staggering, they don't yet correlate with the death toll. Thankfully, Despite the magnitude of these catastrophes, the loss of human life has been minimal. However, this discrepancy won't last long. So far, the scientific community has only managed to acknowledge the failure of the so-called best models. And I'd like to ask, how can these models be called the best? The best model is the one that ensures people's safety. Yet, were the people who died or survived the 7.1 magnitude earthquake in Tibet safe? Were the people who died during the record-breaking heat waves of 2023 and 2024 safe? Were those caught off guard by floods, tornadoes, and hurricanes safe? What about those who, in just a blink of an eye, turn to see their homes engulfed in flames, trapping their families like prisoners in an oven? So how can these models be called the best when they fail to warn people about what they will face? If we, Alatra volunteers, had been heard 10 years ago, instead of being persecuted and tortured, what is happening now could have been avoided. Unfortunately, the situation will only get worse. No matter how much we wish for improvement, there's no single sign that the climate will suddenly stop and everything will get back to normal. In reality, no one is solving this problem. We are forced to witness all this horror that is happening to people, including right now in Los Angeles. The city hasn't slept for many nights. Without water or electricity, residents live in constant anticipation of evacuation alerts on their phones. Hurricane-force winds, reaching 130 kilometers per hour, spread the flames so quickly that entire neighborhoods turn to ash within hours. Evacuation times are so short that people abandon their cars on the road. The entire city is blanketed in smoke that makes it impossible to breathe. Evacuees cry as they watch live news broadcasts showing years of their lives consumed by fire. Imagine seeing your family home, the place where you and your children grew up, reduced to ash in a matter of hours. Where just yesterday they were residential neighborhoods, today there is only a scorched wasteland. Many of those affected won't even receive insurance payouts. After the wildfires of previous years, many insurance companies declared bankruptcy. Today, insuring a home in fire-prone areas is next to impossible. Either it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars annually, or insurance is denied altogether. People have been literally left with nothing. And do you know what the bitterest irony is? Almost all the buildings in Los Angeles, whether luxurious mansions, skyscrapers, or malls, burn so quickly because they are made of wood to meet seismic building codes. Imagine this. People constructed wooden homes to protect themselves against earthquakes. Yet now these same homes ignite like matchsticks in catastrophic wildfires. Now, survivors sit amid the ashes of their homes wearing respirators and grimly joking, "I want to cancel my subscription to 2025. The free 7-day trial is over." It's heartbreaking for me to see these people, who were just celebrating the new year with their families just yesterday, lost everything today. It's terrifying. But unfortunately, this is not the end. It's only the beginning, and climate disasters worldwide will only intensify. What's happening in Los Angeles now is a minuscule catastrophe in compared of what is to come. Multiply this tragedy millions of times, and you'll see the future we warned about decades ago in the classified part of our climate report. Tragically, there's no way to simply cancel the subscription to this future. If it wasn't for one idiot's lust for power, we wouldn't have faced harsh persecution. If 10 years ago, we'd been supported instead of silenced, we wouldn't be facing the disasters unfolding now or those yet to come. After all, few people realize that the cause of the fires in California is the global disruption of natural processes, increased winds, and disruption of planet's natural water cycle. These natural disasters are just part of a larger, destructive process affecting our planet. Yet, there are ways to stabilize this process, as we've discussed before. If we had been heard, the planet's water cycle could have already been restored. Hence, there wouldn't be such abnormal winds or droughts. There wouldn't have been a tragedy in Hawaii 2 years ago, when an entire island burned and many people died horrific deaths. No disaster in California, and other tragedies we've discussed today. Think about it. Real models for solving this problem already exist, but they're not being implemented. Just because one power-hungry idiot with a documented mental illness couldn't care less about people. He doesn't care about anyone, not even himself. He's willing to do anything to maintain his grip on power. I'm talking about Dworkin, the man who now exerts real influence over political processes not only in Russia, but also in other countries through his network of agents. He can accuse anyone of anything, silence anyone he dislikes, just like he did with Alatra when he simply didn't want the truth about the climate to be heard. Things have gone so far that Dworkin alone decides who can speak what, who is guilty and who is innocent, who should be executed and who should live. A mentally unstable individual has appointed himself the ruler of the world. But now, I want to address those who carry out his orders across the globe. Tell me, are you idiots just like him? Can you see what's happening to the world? What do you hope for? The tragedy in California once again confirms a harsh truth. The climate has no favorites. You can't bargain with it. And regardless of your status or position, you can lose everything in a matter of minutes. Forgive my emotions, but it pains me deeply to watch people suffer. This is the same suffering that awaits nearly all of us. Suffering that could have been prevented. As far back as 2018, Alatra volunteers warned that such climate catastrophes in the United States would intensify and become more frequent. Maybe someone in our shoes would feel a sense of vindication, knowing that ultimately we are right because our forecasts are becoming true. But for us, it's a heavy burden to bear, because we know that with each passing year, more and more people will die. We know that the worst is yet to come. And we've been living with this understanding for 10 years. At a time when clear thinking and decisive action are desperately needed, when we, as humanity, still have time and the opportunity to change everything, instead of voicing the truth about what's going on and solving the problem, you are being fed conspiracy theories. Let's face the truth. Most of these conspiracy theories are fabricated by Dworkin's FSB to distract people from the real causes of what's happening. Through their agents, they spread claims that all these fires are artificially created, whether by HARP or some kind of laser beams from the sky. And there are plenty of fools who believe it, and I perfectly understand why people want to believe these theories. Of course, if humans are behind it all, that means they can stop it whenever they want, right? That belief lets people sleep peacefully at night. But I have to disappoint these fools. It's all nonsense. We are facing a genuine natural disaster, and that's what makes it so terrifying. No one stands behind or controls it. And all these clowns with their conspiracy theories only hinder rational people from addressing real problems and implementing solutions that could bring it all back to a safe state. That's what's truly horrifying. Equally horrifying is how so many people actually take pleasure in others' suffering. Those of you who rejoice because Americans are affected, or Hollywood affected, are you out of your minds? This is a shared tragedy that is showing what's happening to our world. Wake up and think. Today, it's their disaster. Tomorrow, it'll be yours. And someone else will celebrate your pain. This gloating is a result of a divided society, a society split into us and them. It's the outcome of manipulative tactics by the people like Dworkin and his jackasses who have ultimately torn society apart. Has everyone lost their minds to the point of taking joy in the misery of others? Have we really become this heartless? There are some rather cruel, gloating comments from Russians directed at Americans. You know, there's a fitting Russian joke on this topic. A Frenchman, a German, and a Russian whose home burned down come before God. God asked the Frenchman, "What do you wish for?" The Frenchman replies, "I want a new, better house." God asked the German, and he says he wants 2 new houses. Then God asked the Russian, and you know what he asked for? "Let my neighbor's house burn down too." So he can't be happy either. How sad this joke sounds now. Think about this. Today, California is burning. But tomorrow, a plume in Siberia could explode. And then what? Where is your humanness? Because it's humanness that saves people during disasters. After all, this has been proven time and time again. Even now, in Los Angeles, the victims are showing everyone an example of humanness. They are helping each other, housing people in their homes, and emphasizing that human kindness and support are priceless. The relationship between the people and the authorities is a separate issue. We won't delve into that. What matters most is the dignity people act with. Yes, there are a few idiots trying to drag a couch out of their neighbor's burning home, even though they have nowhere to put it. But the majority of people are demonstrating true humanness and mutual support. It is crucial to remain human. Otherwise, we'll destroy each other far sooner than natural disasters will. It's time to remember this now, as the climate crisis aggravates every single day. For 10 years, we've been reaching out to different people, trying to draw attention to the climate. For 10 years, we've knocked on countless doors, warning about what's coming, but no one did anything. Now, only a small portion of those doors we knocked on have burned down, and they're waiting for the rest to catch fire. This is not a metaphor. It's a reality. You know, I wonder what those Hollywood stars and their agents are now thinking. Those whose homes have burned down, the same ones we invited to participate in our forums to raise awareness about the reality of the climate crisis. Back then, their agents demanded millions of dollars for any star's participation. But we're just ordinary people, without sponsors, people who've been persecuted, tortured, and silenced for years. I wonder what those who once sent us invoices think about the importance of drawing attention to climate issues now, when everything is on fire. Right now, humanity has every opportunity to make significant changes. What's stopping us is the narrow-mindedness of those who just don't care. They think they'll have enough time to live, and beyond that, who cares? But tell me, is that the kind of future you want for your children? For our children? Because we're fighting for their future. That's what motivates us to keep speaking out. And we'd like to live without fires and floods too. This problem isn't going to disappear on its own. It's only growing worse. We've been shouting about this for 10 years, and yet we're still being persecuted. Isn't there anyone reasonable and sane left in this world? No, we don't believe that. We know there are billions of sane, thinking people out there who understand what's happening. So I want to ask everyone listening, what do you personally think? Do you and other people need to know the truth about the climate? If you decide you don't need it, we'll then lie to you like everyone else and say everything is fine with the climate. But if you believe the truth is more important, we'll keep telling it. Because it's your choice to live with an understanding of the problem, knowing the diagnosis and how to treat this illness, or remain ignorant while the illness destroys your body.